My father handed my brother the workshop I built. I walked away, joined our biggest client's new custom division, and watched the mill that ignored me splinter without me. For 16 years, I lived inside the smell of Vermont white pine and black cherry. I started at 14, sweeping shavings off the floor of Harrington and Sons Custom Millworks in Burlington, the business my grandfather founded in 1958 with a single bandsaw and a dream of heirloom furniture. By 22, I was the only one who could read a grain pattern like a road map and coax a dovetail joint so tight you couldn't slip a razor blade between the pins. I learned estimating on a yellow legal pad during night classes at Vermont Technical College, then came home to run the CNC router before sunrise. Mom handled the books and the charm. Dad had died when I was 12, felled by a widowmaker limb on a logging site. Mom kept the lights on, but I kept the blades sharp and the orders flowing. Meanwhile, my younger brother Levi spent those years in Boston, chasing a communications degree and a string of bar gigs. He'd breeze in for Thanksgiving smelling of city cologne, regale Mom with stories of client lunches, then vanish again. I stayed. I sacrificed. I believed the mill would be mine. Declan, Mom's voice sliced through the whine of the table saw. I killed the power and lifted my safety glasses. She stood in the doorway between shop and office, flanked by Levi and our lead salesman, Mark. Family meeting. Conference room. Now. I wiped sawdust from my forearms and followed. The room still smelled of the lemon oil we used on conference tables we'd built for lawyers in Montpelier. Mom took Dad's old chair at the head. Levi lounged to her right, legs stretched like he owned the grain in the floorboards. "This doesn't change your role," Mom began, eyes on me. "You're still head of design and production. Nothing about that shifts." Levi flashed the easy grin that closed deals at trade shows. At 32, 2 years my junior, he looked like a catalog model for LL Bean flannel. "Declan, bro," he said, voice syrupy with practiced warmth. "I can't do this without your eye. You're the heart of the operation." I stared at the knotty pine wall behind him. 1 year. Levi had worked here exactly 1 year after college, mostly glad-handing at the Vermont Wood Products Expo. 16 years versus 1. The math felt like a dull blade dragged across my palm. Why? The word scraped out before I could sand it smooth. Why Levi and not me? Silence thicker than 2-inch hard maple. Mark suddenly found his phone fascinating. Mom's smile calcified. She cleared her throat. "Declan, we've talked about this. Levi has the vision. He's better with people. Clients light up when he walks in the room. You're brilliant with the technical side, the craft. But I'm not CEO material." I finished the sentence she wouldn't. "That's not," she started. But her gaze slid to the window where snow had begun to fall on the lumber stacks. Her fingers twisted the wedding ring she still wore, the one Dad had carved from a scrap of bird's-eye maple the year before he died. "Your father always said Levi had his spark, the way he could talk a logger into selling us prime cuts at cost. You were the steady hand, Declan. The one who made it all real." Levi nodded, leaning in like we were old pals. "Remember when we were kids? You built that treehouse with the spiral staircase, and I convinced the neighbors to let us scavenge their demolition pile for free lumber. Teamwork." I laughed, a short bark that echoed off the walls. "You were 10. I was 12, hauling 2x4s on my bike while you flirted with the foreman's daughter. That's not teamwork, Levi. That's me doing the work and you taking the credit." Mom's eyes flashed. "Don't rewrite history." Levi brought in the Caldwell account last spring, our biggest wholesale order ever. Because I spent 3 months prototyping samples in my garage unpaid, while he golfed with Ethan Caldwell at Stowe. My voice rose, cracking the calm I'd armored myself with. "I missed my own engagement party to finish those prototypes." Sarah understood. She always did. "But where were you, Mom?" "Celebrating Levi's win with champagne I couldn't afford on my salary." Levi shifted, his grin faltering for the first time. "Come on, December." Sarah left because she wanted city lights, not because of a few late nights. The room tilted. "Sarah." We'd met at a craft fair in Waterbury. She sold hand-thrown pottery while I demoed live-edge slabs. She'd waited 2 years for a ring. Another year for a wedding date that kept getting pushed by just one more rush order. When she took the job in Portland, Oregon, Mom had patted my hand and said, "Plenty of fish, honey. The mill needs you." "You told me she was distracting me from my potential," I said to Mom. the words tasting like turpentine. Potential you never saw beyond the shop floor. Mom stood, chair scraping. I lost your father to this place. 12-hour days, no vacations, heart giving out at 48. I won't lose another son to it. Levi knows how to delegate, how to grow without killing himself. You'd run yourself into the ground, Declan. Just like Dad. So you hand the keys to the golden child who's never felt a splinter? I gestured at Levi's manicured hands. He doesn't even know which end of a chisel to hold. Levi's face flushed. I closed the Lang deal. I'm learning. You closed it on my bid, my specs, my sleepless nights. I turned to Mom. Tell me honestly, was there ever a conversation about me taking over? Or was I always the mule? Her silence was answer enough. Levi reached across the table, trying for my arm. Bro. Pulled away. Don't. Just don't. I walked out past the racks of quarter-sawn oak, past the planer screaming like it knew what was coming. Mom called my name. I kept moving. The hallway smelled of linseed oil and betrayal. That night I sat on the porch of the cabin I'd built myself on 10 acres outside Jericho. Laptop balanced on a stump, a bottle of Switchback IPA sweating beside me. The screen glowed with CAD files for a conference table destined for a tech startup in South Burlington. My design, my joinery, my sleepless nights calculating load-bearing curves. Mom texted, family sticks together. Lunch tomorrow? I let it sit unread. Another ping email from the foreman. Glue up on the Pearson credenza failed. Need your eyes ASAP. Always something. 70-hour weeks, holidays spent troubleshooting humidity swings in the kiln, relationships that withered like green wood in a drought. All because I thought one day the sign out front would read Harrington and Sons, Declan Harrington, proprietor. I closed the laptop. A decision crystallized, cold and clean as a fresh rip cut. If the mill wasn't mine, neither was my life. From now on, 8 to 5. Weekends off. Vacation days used. And I'd start looking. The next morning I rolled in at 8:07, coffee in hand. Foreman Jake did a double take. Everything okay, Deck? Perfect, I said. Beautiful December day. My inbox was a war zone. 12 urgent flags, 3 missed calls from suppliers, 2 architects waiting on revised drawings. I triaged in 43 minutes, handed off clear instructions, no hand-holding. At noon Levi appeared, takeout containers from the skinny pancake in hand. Lunch? Transition talk. Booked solid, I said, not looking up from a stress analysis. Maybe next week. He lingered. Dad's old client, Senator Lang's office. They need the revised mahogany panels by Monday. You were supposed to sign off. I glanced at my calendar, blank. Not scheduled. Plenty of time if someone loops me in early. Levi's jaw tightened. It's due Monday. Then mark it urgent and block my time. I returned to my screen. You're the face of the company now. He left. I exhaled. Guilt tried to gnaw, but satisfaction won. 5 o'clock sharp. I shut down, grabbed my coat, walked out past the glow of the spray booth. No last-minute saves. The air tasted like freedom and impending blizzard. Monday the Lang panels shipped with a quarter-inch mismatch in the miters. My eye would have caught it in 10 seconds. We lost the Senator's Lake House commission to a shop in Middlebury. Mom summoned me to the office. What in God's name is happening? Her voice cracked like green wood in the kiln. We've courted Lang for 3 years. Levi's bid, I said calmly. He's learning. He needed your review. During business hours with proper lead time, I'm available. I stood. Anything else? Her eyes searched mine like she was looking for the boy who used to fall asleep on piles of shavings. This is punishment. No, I said. This is boundaries. Word spread. Whispers in the break room. I kept designing, kept shipping flawless pieces when properly cued, kept leaving at 5. Then came the call from Ethan Caldwell, VP of Product at Vermont Wood Studios, our biggest client, the ones who retailed our pieces in high-end catalogs nationwide. I'd met Ethan years ago at a trade show. He'd watched me demo a hidden drawer mechanism that made jaws drop. Declan, we're launching a direct-to-consumer custom line to compete with the Swedish giant. We need someone who can design heirloom-quality flat pack that ships in a box. Your name came up, repeatedly. I stared at the snow piling against the shop window. Send the offer. It landed in my inbox that night, Director of Custom Engineering. Equity package. Signing bonus that made my chest tight. Remote friendly, but the new facility was 20 minutes away in Shelburne. I accepted on a Thursday. Gave notice Friday. Mom's face went the color of poplar heartwood. You'd go to the client who buys 80% of our output? 80% of what I design, I corrected. And they're offering recognition from day one. Levi cornered me by the drum sander. You're torching your legacy. My legacy was never on the table, I said. Yours was gift-wrapped. I worked my 2 weeks with military precision, documenting every jig, every tolerance, every supplier quirk. I owed the crew that much, guys like Jake who'd taught me to read a board when I was knee-high. On my last day, they threw an impromptu potluck in the finishing room. No family. As I boxed the last of my tools, Mom appeared in the doorway, eyes red-rimmed. Caldwell just pulled their spring catalog order, she said. Said they're moving production in-house. With you. I nodded. Smart business. She stepped closer. We can make you co-owner. 50-50. Whatever you want. I taped the box shut. I wanted it before you needed it. The drive to Shelburne felt like exhaling after 16 years underwater. My new office overlooked Lake Champlain. The workshop hummed with engineers who asked my opinion like it mattered. Within 4 months, I'd prototyped a modular bookcase system that assembled with a single Allen wrench and held 500 pounds per shelf. Pre-orders crashed the website. Back in Burlington, the mill hemorrhaged. Levi overpromised lead times to a New York designer. The cherry warped in transit. A kiln fire, improperly vented after I stopped babysitting the controls, destroyed 20,000 board feet. Suppliers demanded COD. The bank called the line of credit. 8 months later, I stood in the boardroom of Vermont Wood Studios, presenting Q3 numbers, 42% margin increase on custom lines, all traceable to my designs. Ethan Caldwell slid a new contract across the table. VP of Innovation, 7-figure equity vest. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I stepped into the hall. Declan? It's Sarah from the mill, our longtime bookkeeper. Voice trembling. Your mom had a stroke this morning. Stress, doctors say. Levi's he's in over his head. We're 2 weeks from payroll. I leaned against the window watching ferries cut white wakes across the lake. I'm sorry, I said. 42 families, Declan. Good people. I closed my eyes. The boy who'd grown up in sawdust still lived somewhere under my skin, but he no longer steered the saw. I'll come by the hospital, I said. We'll talk options. No promises. I hung up, stared at the contract in my hand. True freedom wasn't burning the bridge. It was choosing whether to cross back on my terms, with the matchbox in my pocket. I signed the new contract, then drove north through sugar snow. The mill sign loomed ahead, paint peeling like old bark. I parked, killed the engine, and walked inside for the first time in months. The air still smelled of pine and possibility, but quieter now, like a forest after the loggers leave. Levi met me in the office, sleeves rolled, eyes hollow. We can consult you, he said without preamble. Name your rate. I looked past him to the wall where Dad's old framing square hung, tarnished but true. First, I said, we stabilize cash flow. Then we talk equity. My equity. And my title on the door. He opened his mouth. Protest, plea, I couldn't tell. I raised a hand. You wanted the face of the company, I said. Now you'll learn what the backbone costs. Outside, snow kept falling, soft and deliberate, covering the ruts of old mistakes. I rolled up my sleeves. The wood was still good. The question was who would shape it next.